Like profits for the entertainment industry, we have been saying now for years that the Walt Disney Company was headed for a reckoning. They simply could not continue doing the things that they had done, taking the positions which are contra to that which parents most like, and making determinations which seem to be based on mistruths, ideology, and propaganda rather than universalisms that everybody can agree upon. Well, it gives us no joy now to discover that it's time. The week of reckoning is here. And the sad part about this, the sad thing that causes us not to feel as though the mouse is getting the comeuppance that it deserves, is that this will begin to impact regular people first. Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do each and every day here on the WDW Pro channel. If you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. When you do, stick it to those algorithms, and we like that very much. Drop a comment down below. We care about your thoughts. We often respond. Today, we're talking about something that is going to be quite difficult for those who work at Disney, and often we're talking about people who had no say whatsoever in the directions of the company. They are not to blame largely for this, and yet they will be the ones who bear the brunt of the punishment coming to the Walt Disney Company. Those who made those decisions largely stay in power, although Victoria Alonso is a separate situation we'll discuss in just a few. Our article today comes from Alex Sherman over at CNBC, this one breaking just a few hours ago. Disney layoffs will begin this week, CEO Bob Iger says in a memo. This coming on the heels of many different fires happening all across Disney, those being proverbial fires, metaphoric fires, yet fires nevertheless. We've been covering all of those. We'll talk about them in a minute. I do want to get into the details of these terminations on the way. Disney will begin informing employees this week that they're being laid off. One of the points, this will be the first of 3 rounds of cuts that will amount to 7,000 job losses. We'll cover that more in just a moment. We're getting more verification that the unfortunate rumors that I've been reporting on and which have been at least semi-verified are actually correct, which is that there will be more than 7,000 jobs ultimately. We'll talk about it in a moment. And then finally, the third point, Disney is cutting costs after its valuation plummeted last year. By the way, the bump that came from this man, Robert Iger, CEO of the Disney company, brought back in after Bob Chapek was let go following 10 months of being completely inundated with criticisms, largely because Robert Iger's people were criticizing him and trying to take him out. Well, Robert Iger is back, and that bump that he provided the stock is gone. Let's get into this. Disney will begin layoffs this week, the first of 3 rounds before the beginning of the summer that result in about 7,000 job cuts, according to a memo sent by CEO Bob Iger. The cuts are part of a broader effort to reduce corporate spending and boost free cash flow. Disney said last month it plans to cut $5.5 billion in costs, including $3 billion in content spend. This week, we begin notifying employees whose positions are impacted by the company's workforce reductions, he wrote in the memo. Leaders will be communicating the news directly to the first group of impacted employees over the next 4 days. A second, larger round of notifications will happen in April with several thousand more staff reductions, and we expect to commence the final round of notifications before the beginning of the summer to reach our 7,000 job target. Notice that that's just the target before summer. Again, we'll discuss again. However, let's say this too. It was just weeks ago that we had all kinds of people coming out of the HR and DEI positions within Disney who were claiming that they had been let go due to these same layoffs that had been previously announced. It now appears that those were additional layoffs, which are not being counted towards the 7,000. The layoffs were initially announced in February. The job cuts will be cross-company, hitting Disney's media and distribution division, parks and resorts, and ESPN. It goes on to shift some blame, claiming that Disney's following the lead of Warner Brothers Discovery. However, there is no blame shifting to be done when it talks about how Disney has fallen 44% in the last year. Talks about Disney being up 8% this year. But that is, well, not a lot. All right, so let's take a look now at the actual memo, and I want to break this down for you in detail. I'm going to read between the lines get you through the corporate speak so that you know what's really going on. Here's what Iger had to say. Dear fellow employees, as I shared with you in February, we have made the difficult decision to reduce our overall workforce by approximately 7,000 jobs as part of a strategic realignment of the company, including important cost-saving measures necessary for creating a more effective, coordinated, and streamlined approach to our business. Note here that were Disney successful and whether it was their content popular at the moment, they would not have to do this. The people who are losing their jobs because the content creators, the people at the top, the directors, showrunners, writers, etc., have all elected to make material that is unpopular with families and thus knocked Disney out of its indisputable lead in the entertainment industry. Over the past few months, senior leaders have been working closely with HR to assess their operational needs, and I want to give you an update on those efforts. This week, we begin notifying employees whose positions are impacted by the company's workforce reductions. Leaders will be communicating the news directly to the first group of impacted employees over the next 4 days. A second, larger round of notifications will happen in April, with several thousand more staff reductions. And we expect to commence the final round of notifications before the beginning of the summer to reach our 7,000 job target. The difficult reality of many colleagues and friends leaving Disney is not something we take lightly. This company is home to the most talented and dedicated employees in the world. This is corporate speak, ladies and gentlemen. This is meant to soften the blow. And so many of you bring a lifelong passion for Disney to your work here. That's part of what makes working at Disney so special. It also makes it all the more difficult to say goodbye to wonderful people we care about. Although it's not so difficult that they're willing to change course and start creating content that families want so that those people can retain their jobs. I want to offer my sincere thanks and appreciation to every departing employee for your numerous contributions and your devotion to this beloved company. For our employees who aren't impacted, this is the key point, folks. This is what's not going to be reported as well in most of the mainstream and legacy media outlets. This is why you come to this channel, is to get this sort of insight. And so let's break it apart. Here we go. For our employees who aren't impacted, I want to acknowledge that there will no doubt be challenges ahead as we continue building the structures and functions that will enable us to be successful moving forward. I ask for your continued understanding and collaboration during this time. What does that mean? Well, one, we know that when people lose their positions, that the people who remain will have to take up what those other people were doing before. That's more stress. But also, this idea that there will no doubt be challenges ahead, and then talking about these structures and functions, that's called streamlining. This almost seems to be guaranteeing now that there are more job cuts on the way, which is, by the way, what we have now heard from multiple sources beyond just the sources that spoke to me exclusively that we revealed on this channel weeks ago. In tough moments, we must always do what is required to ensure Disney can continue delivering exceptional entertainment to audiences and guests around the world now and long into the future. Please know that our HR partners and leaders are committed to creating a supportive and smooth process every step of the way. I want to thank each of you again for all your many achievements here at the Walt Disney Company. Sincerely, Bob. And so everybody wanted to get rid of Chapek. They were so furious that the job cuts were coming, and can we just get rid of Bob Chapek, please? Well, there's a new Bob back in town, and he's still getting rid of people. He's still bouncing them right out of the company, and we hope everybody lands on their feet. The people who made these decisions are not the ones who will suffer from them. That's what is truly sad. Now, talking about some of the fires that Disney has and some of the reasons that we're seeing these layoffs, well, take a look at this. Out of TMZ, Jonathan Major's attorney says he's completely innocent, claims alleged victim has recanted. This is another example of one of those very sticky and unpleasant situations that Disney has found itself in. It has pinned the entire future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for the next half decade or more on this man, Jonathan Majors. And now he is accused of something heinous, having attacked a woman, particularly a woman who it appears is his girlfriend. Now, there has been quite the problem going through the internet lately, and that is both in print and on YouTube, people jumping to conclusions before it's appropriate to do so in both directions. Part of what is challenging about doing a YouTube channel, especially one that has a signal that people are paying attention to, is that when you are speaking with an audience of tens of thousands or more each and every day, you need to be extremely careful with what you say. Articulating the truth is not easy. No, it is not. because it's difficult to even know what is going on in your own life sometimes. We are often taken aback by things that happen. There are surprises, many of them, that occur each and every day. And so then to try to grasp the truth in its actual form for other people and other places that we are not privy to, that's hard. And we need to be very careful when we're covering this Jonathan Majors story. I'll break down a few of those reasons. First of all, we do not have any of the evidence per se as of yet. We don't have any of the video from the taxi. We don't have any of the audio. Also, we don't know what's being politicked here from this attorney, but we would assume that when this attorney that's representing Jonathan Majors says that there's been a recanting from the alleged victim, and then that when the district attorney is moving forward with the charges, that we don't have the full picture yet. We don't know if this is a woman in mental crisis or if she's in physical crisis. We don't know what is the cause of the emergency. It could be Jonathan Majors. It could be something else. We don't know if anybody is trying to be purposefully deceptive. But the one thing that I would very much caution everybody is that when we have situations like this, it seems that there are a number of people who take on these issues in a way that is inappropriate. They use them in order to drive clicks. And I get that people want to have ads and make money off of that, whether it's in print or it's on YouTube. I understand the market for it. But there are real people involved. And if Jonathan Majors is innocent, then this is a horrendous thing that has happened to him. And if this woman has been assaulted and has been harmed, especially if this is a continuing pattern, then that's a horrible thing. Somebody in this situation has been mistreated. And so we should deal with this with the due diligence and deference that it requires. I also find that beyond just trying to get the clicks as fast as possible, that sometimes what people do with these issues is that they try to broaden them out into something bigger and more applicable to the larger audience in order to tie this emotionally to people. For example, I've seen people try to say that Jonathan Majors is being treated negatively because of his ethnic background. Or I've seen people try to tie in this woman's experience, potentially, with the experience of other women. I've seen coworkers, former coworkers that are anonymous, come out and claim that this is part of a broader pattern of Jonathan Majors. And I think everybody needs to cool down, calm down, and let's try to get at the truth. It's really important. The reason that Disney is in the situation that it currently is in is because they have gotten away from the truth. And we want to try to aim as closely to the truth as we can. When Disney produces content that strays from truthfulness, families tend to tune out over time, especially when it involves their children. And with Jonathan Majors, we hope that the fair reporting we've done so far here on this channel is worthy of you continuing to give us your time. Let's read this TMZ article now, and I'll explain how some of the mishaps and mistaken issues have come about. Here we go. Jonathan Majors' lawyer says there's evidence that'll prove he committed no crime against a woman who's alleged he assaulted her, even claiming she's reversing her own story. Criminal defense attorney Priya Chaudhry, who's representing Majors in this matter, tells TMZ Jonathan Majors is completely innocent and is probably the victim of an altercation with a woman he knows. That, we assume, based on what's been reported now, is his girlfriend, although we cannot verify that fully. We are quickly gathering and presenting evidence to the district attorney with the expectation that all charges will be dropped imminently. Well, that's coming from his attorney. We expect someone's attorney to say those sorts of things, right? And so we don't report on that as if it is actual truth. We don't know. It could be, it may not be. She goes on to cite evidence she says they've already gotten gathered to back up their version of events. And by the way, I also find this to be interesting. I don't know how they've gathered the evidence. That usually is the purview of law enforcement. So how has Jonathan Majors' legal team managed to acquire video evidence from a taxi company, allegedly? We don't know, including video footage from within the vehicle where the alleged assault occurred, witness testimony from the driver, and others who saw or heard the episode. And last but not least, 2 written statements that Chaudhry claims are from the alleged victim in this case. Now again, we don't know. We don't know what the contents of those claims are. We are going off of an attorney who represents someone who wants to not be involved in this any longer, who wants to be exonerated. And if he's innocent, we hope he is exonerated. But we're also savvy enough to know that we don't take the words of an attorney representing someone who's just been charged and assume that what they're telling us is the full and total honest truth. They're trying to get ahead of this media circus as well. And so when print media and YouTubers out there have taken this and ran with it, we need to be careful. I'm not trying to be negative or I'm certainly not trying to condemn anyone for their reporting out there, but we just simply need to be careful. Chaudhry insists the statements show her fully recanting her allegations, and she adds this will all be presented to the authorities in due time to prove her client did nothing wrong. And sure, that's what her job is. We'll see if that plays out the way that she has said. And of course, we've got this U.S. Army ad campaign now dropping Jonathan Majors. We know all about this. There will be fallout. We've seen how this happened with Justin Roiland. But what we don't know yet is if, unlike Justin Roiland, perhaps these charges are accurate. We don't know. And we should be humble enough to admit when we don't know and to wait until we can get some clarity. You can see from Newsweek here, Jonathan Majors could sue girlfriend for making assault charges against him. This by Shannon Power. I find this to be an inappropriate article. I want to use it as an example of what I'm talking about so that it's not nebulous. This article says Jonathan Majors should not pursue legal action against a woman who accused him of assault after she allegedly recanted her statement, even though he could seek to file a defamation lawsuit. And that very first set of sentences, well, that's one sentence. That's a massive sentence. But in that first sentence, which itself acts like a paragraph, it's all based on that she allegedly recanted her statement. This entire article is based on that assumption coming from Jonathan Majors' attorney. And I find that to be highly inappropriate to run an article such as this, where all of the speculation is based on what he should do if his attorney is telling the absolute truth in the exact way that the attorney is stating it. But that's not a given, and we should be savvy enough to understand that. This sort of brings us back to Disney's situation. Not only do they have this Jonathan Majors issue that's going on now, and is going to be probably something very messy for them, with the district attorney believing that there's enough to bring charges and hold those charges rather than dropping them. But also they've got legal issues with Victoria Alonso and with Karen McCarthy, with Lucasfilm, etc. There is a lot of truth issues at stake for Disney that are having now financial consequences. We need to be careful as a site and as readers and viewers to wait and get the facts and to not just jump at every single scandalous headline and clickbaity article that's out there. We also don't need to be sanctimonious. It's hard to tell the truth. We do our very best. We play carefully when there's not clarity. When it comes to Disney, though, they need to get back to truthfulness. It seems to me that if the allegations are true from Karen McCarthy about Lucasfilm and what they did, they treated her in a less than truthful way. With Victoria Alonso, we've taken a look at some of her own words and her connections, potentially, with past governments of other places in the world that have levels of corruption that are unacceptable. We've also looked at how Disney has dealt with her and perhaps misled her. Who knows? That's speculation a little bit, but we're trying to figure out who's at fault there. Somebody's not being truthful in that situation. And here again with Jonathan Majors, somebody is not being truthful. Perhaps it's due to a medical crisis, or perhaps it's due to a need for deception. But we'll sit on this and wait. As we sit and wait until the clarity arrives, we'll continue to call for Disney to get back to that same sort of high-level integrity and desire for the truth. If we all do that, then the world becomes a much better place. There's a Latin phrase that I really enjoy. It's written on a piece of memorabilia that sits in my studio that helps me remember my place in the world as I talk to all of you. Yes, I am able to connect with a lot of people each and every day, and I consider that a great responsibility. It's an honor. The Latin phrase is acrior est logos, and it means that sharper is the ultimate truth. Whatever we say, whatever we do, what actions we take, the truth wins out. That is what I will pursue. That's what I recommend you pursue. It's what I recommend that companies pursue. Disney, with its effect on children, well, it's even more true. Folks, if you like content like this, click the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about that notification bell. Drop a comment down below, and don't forget that the Pro Show is now every Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this channel. You're going to want to be there. It is a lot of fun. Closing in on 10,000 subs. When it happens, memberships are opened up. You're not going to believe some of those perks we'll have. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Make sure to catch the Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.